Tears on your face. On your face. Your friends go messing with your mind. Girl, you know there ain't nothing I won't do for you. Baby, don't ever doubt my love comes true. Baby, hold on to me. See, I'm a special kind. And that's hard to find. Told you 1,000 times. Baby, hold on to me. Oh, baby, hold on to me. See, I'm a special kind. And that's hard to find. Told you 1,000 times. Baby, hold on to me. Was not there when he made you cry. Who was there to comfort you when he said bye-bye? Girl, I give you my time. Here is my money, all of my money. Oh, you'll be so sorry, baby, if we were to ever part. Girl, you know that I will never hurt you. Oh, girl, you know that I will never desert you. Oh, I'm special kind. Oh, you better. See, I'm special kind. You know I'm hold on, see, I wanna be everything that you need. And I promise, baby, I'll be there for you. See, day and night, when you need someone to hold you tight, you wanna look for me, you wanna look for me, so you better. See, I like it, I'm special kind. I want it, oh, baby, hold on to me, you better, hold on. Think about it before you let me walk out the door, babe. Oh, will you live without me, baby? If I can't see myself living without you. Oh, no. Everything you ever need. Oh, I'm giving it to you, baby. Keep me around. Keep me around. I know I'm a good man, and your friends keep telling you all about you. They don't know. Listen to what I'm saying when I tell you that I'll never hurt you, babe. I'll never The great Gerald Levert and his father, Hold On to Me. I know that debate got a lot of people wondering who to hold on to. We're going to try to figure this out with this review of the debate. I have my opinions. I will share them as they go. I feel that maybe it was friendlier to Harris, and Trump was a little frustrated But yes, we're going to review this debate. I want to get you guys' commentary and comments as far as who you think won. And also we'll talk more about what's going on in Ohio with the Haitians. There's another video that I found where more people are speaking about what's going on so that, we can understand from the perspective of the people on the ground that's actually living through what's going on. And again, we know about Chicago, we know about New York, now we're learning about Ohio. This situation is starting to get a little bit more serious and spreading. There's no point in trying to pretend like you're happy about it. Of course not. Okay, so let me find this video. If you guys have not yet, please like, share, subscribe to this channel. I would greatly appreciate it. I know I have a lot of looky-loos and people are not very comfortable with hitting that like button, but I hope as time goes on that you guys would, do me a favor and hit the like button. It's free. It does not bother you at all. Hey, what's up, Afro Goddess? Thank you for coming through. I'm just trying to get it started at the beginning. We're going to start off when they gave the rules and whatnot, and then we'll go as time goes on. I'll stop as I see fit to give a little bit of more clarity or understanding as far as what I view in the video. Let's go.
Debate of 2024. Good evening, I'm David Muir, and thank you for joining us for tonight's ABC News presidential debate. We want to welcome viewers watching on ABC and around the world tonight. Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump are just moments away from taking the stage in this unprecedented race for president.
And I'm Lindsay Davis. Tonight's meeting could be the most consequential event of their campaigns, with Election Day now less than 2 months away. For Vice President Kamala Harris, this is her first debate since President Biden withdrew from the race on July 21st. Of course, that decision followed his debate against President Donald Trump in June. Since then, this race has taken on an entirely new dynamic.
And that brings us to the rules of tonight's debate. 90 minutes with 2 commercial breaks. No topics or questions have been shared with the campaigns. The candidates will have 2 minutes to answer questions, and this is the clock. That's what they'll be seeing. 2 minutes for rebuttals and 1 minute for follow-ups, clarifications, or responses. Their microphones will only be turned on when it's their turn to speak. No pre-written notes allowed. There is no audience here tonight in this hall at the National Constitution Center. This is an intimate setting for 2 candidates who have never met.
President Trump won the coin toss. He chose to deliver the final closing statement of the evening. Vice President Harris selected the podium to the right.
So let's now welcome the candidates to the stage. Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump.
Kamala Harris. It's a good debate. Thank you.
Welcome to you both.
Awkward shake. I could just say both of them did not want to shake hands, but they did. So that was kind of awkward, but let's go.
It's wonderful to have you. It's an honor to have you both here tonight.
Good evening. We are looking forward to a spirited and thoughtful debate.
So let's get started. I want to begin tonight with the issue that voters repeatedly say is their number one issue, and that is the economy and the cost of living in this country. Vice President Harris, you and President Trump were elected 4 years ago, and your opponent on the stage here tonight often asks his supporters, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I was raised as a middle-class kid, and I am actually the only...
Deflects off the top. Don't want to answer the question directly as to why the economy is not doing well 4 years later, 3.5 years later. This is a tactic. They've been practicing on this. Obviously, all the hiding and running. She knows exactly what to do. Part of her rally little run, and then talk about what she wants to talk about and go around the question and accuse Trump, of course, put it off of herself and accuse Trump. This is what we're about to witness right now.
Person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America. I believe in the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American people. And that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy. Because here's the thing. We know that we have a shortage of homes and housing.
Opportunity economy. Opportunities for who? Opportunities for illegals, it's going to be. And the opportunity for us to be straddled down with debt. Is that the opportunity that she's referring to? Because again, this opportunity economy does not sound like she's not going to be able to do what she's claiming. And what is she going to do with all these people just taking all the monies and resources from different counties, states, cities with these illegals? What kind of opportunities is it going to be for the American people is the question.
And the cost of housing is too expensive for far too many people. We know that young families need support to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is the largest child tax credit that we have given in a long time, so that those young families can afford to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children. My passion, one of them, is small businesses. My mother raised my sister and me, but there was a woman who helped raise us. We call her our second mother. She was a small business owner. I love our small businesses. My plan is to give a $50,000 tax deduction to start up small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy. My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America.
Like she's not looking out for the upper people too. She's looking out for the corporate people as well. She's looking out for them, and she's looking out for the illegals. The middle people are going to get a pat on the head, and everybody else is just going to fall to the wayside. She is not going to be a blessing to too many more Americans after that. That's my opinion of her. She can be slippery as she wants to be, but she ain't fooling nobody. She's not fooling nobody over here. Hopefully people can see past this act that she's performing. She's doing her chameleon maneuvering. She's had 2 good months to practice and get it all together. So she's very prepped. I'll give her that. She gave her best that she could give. I'll give her that. But it's still not enough with her answers overall. In the end, you cannot trust her. I still feel there is no trust that you can get from this person.
Deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump's sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month. Economists have said that Trump sales tax would actually result for middle-class families in about $4,000 more a year because of his policies and his ideas about what should be the backs of middle-class people paying for tax cuts for billionaires.
President Trump, I'll give you 2 minutes.
First of all, I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that. We're doing tariffs on other countries. Other countries are going to finally, after 75 years, pay us back for all that we've done for the world. And the tariff will be substantial in some cases. I took in billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China. In fact, they never took the tariff off because it was so much money they can't. It would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do. They're taking in billions of dollars from China and other places. They've left the tariffs on. When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation. Look, we've had a terrible economy because inflation which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our nation's history. We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago. This has been a disaster for people, for the middle class, but for every class. On top of that, we have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics, and also unions. Again,
we are getting hit up. It is going to be a cascading effect towards Black Americans and Latinos or Americans overall that are here, that are lower middle class or barely able to maintain middle class. Those jobs are up for competition with these illegals and migrants that are coming over here because these companies are traders and they are allowing them to come in with lesser amount of money to get per hour. And it is squeezing out the American people to be on the outside looking in. What happened with Tyson Chicken? Didn't they fire all the Americans and hired all the illegals? So who's to say not other types of companies such as that is doing these types of tactics and treating Americans such as that, and all kinds of jobs are being affected, American period. But he's specifying Black because, again, we're going to be hurting the most, obviously, because of our numbers and the fact that we are lower level or middle class, sometimes high class, but I'm just talking about overall. That's what he's speaking on. So she just wants to make people think about racism and he's a racist. And I don't think that's fair. I don't really think that that is fair. And she has a lot of faces, I'll give her. They told her how to make expressive faces to try to engage the people, make her more likable, but it's all an act.
They're going to be affected very soon. And you see what's happening. You see what's happening with towns throughout the United States. You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora in Colorado. They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings. They're going in violently. These are the people that she and Biden led into our country, and they're destroying our country. They're dangerous. They're at the highest level of criminality, and we have to get...
On my videos, I've shown times that things have happened as far as all these crimes that are happening, and these migrants are getting off without sentences. A lot of times they're getting let out of jail again. They're able to drive illegally. They're able to get driver's license. They're able to get all kinds of goodies right now. And it's all because of Biden Harris. And so for her to just be sitting up there acting like she's not the person that's the vice president today, I mean, how do you pull that off, y'all? How can she easily pull that off as not being responsible for some of the things that's happening right now? I just cannot give her a pass. So I don't care how expressive her looks are. What has she been doing over the past 3.5 years? And I'm glad Trump is going to bring that up later. Let's go.
We have to get them out fast. I created one of the greatest economies in the history of our country. I'll do it again and even better.
We are going to get to immigration and border security during this debate, but I would like to let Vice President Harris respond on the economy here.
Well, I would love to. Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in a century. Donald Trump left us.
How could he know? How could anybody know of this COVID? Who could have known and foreseen that ridiculousness? Nobody. But she helped create on purpose the problems at the border on purpose. We're talking about just because. Let's just do this, yo. With a special agenda attached to that to help and aid her with numbers, voters, all kinds of goodies on purpose. He did not cause the COVID. COVID happened. So we got to cut some slack where slack should be cut, not on purpose, though. When you do stuff on purpose, that's otherwise.
The worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess. What we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American people. But I'm going to tell you all in this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name calling. What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected to get.
So she just says it and is supposed to just make it so that that's his plan, even if that's not his plan. Even though he said it's not his plan, she's still trying to tag him with it just by insinuating it. It's supposed to just land and be so. So this is very interesting how you can just accuse and you can just say things, and a lot of people can be influenced just because you said it. I hope that we're smarter these days to really look into what he has done as president, and he has already been president. So we shouldn't be as fearful as people would like us to be. I don't get it. You know, he was there for 4 years. We made it out okay despite COVID, even though that was an mind-altering situation for 2 years. We lost 2 years of our lives. And that stemmed from somewhere else. And nobody's been held accountable to that someone else, in the laboratories and whatnot. All those types of people should have been called out and charged or something, given a cost for what they did. China, in my opinion. So anyways, on purpose versus something that just happened that you could not control, I'm still rocking with Trump for that purpose.
I believe very strongly that the American people want a president who understands the importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us. And I pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump will give you a minute to respond.
It's very interesting. She says all Americans. Now, is that including the people that just got here? Are they going to be called Americans too in a matter of months when she becomes president? Wouldn't that be really, really awkward and weird and unbelievable? Wouldn't that spit in the face of lineages and history and blood, sweat, and tears and deaths and all the things that we did to get what we got, and people just came over here and snatched up and was given? I'm not comfortable with this notion of all Americans. Is she trying to insinuate that she would like to make these illegals that had just got here into Americans? Can you imagine? You wake up and they have a law, a bill passed where 20 million people that came from Venezuela and all over the world are now Americans, and that bastardizes our identity. That makes it null and voided. That's not going to be a good feeling, and that's got to be blocked. I think that we should vote for Trump to maintain America, all our history and everything as is. It should not be changed up into this weird Twilight Zone storyline that just came from hell. And we all have to deal with it and become debt slaves to it. I don't think that we should be wanting to aspire for that. Let's go.
And I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas, I guess some good, some bad, but it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic, and the pandemic was not.
So what's up with the laser stare by her? So they just want her to keep staring at him, like see through him type of thing. It was kind of overbearing at times. Just my opinion. She did it throughout the whole damn debate, and I thought that was just a little bit too much. But anyways, let's go.
Since 1917, where 100 million people died, has there been anything like it? We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs they got were bounce back jobs. These were jobs bounced back, and it bounced back and it went to their benefit. But I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does everybody else.
Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond.
So Donald Trump has no plan for you. And when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people. I am offering what I describe as an opportunity economy, and the best economists in our country, if not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the future of America. What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse. Mine would strengthen the economy. What the Wharton School has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode the deficit. 16 Nobel laureates have described his economic plan as something that would increase inflation and by the middle of next year would invite a recession. You just have to look at where we are and where we stand on the issues. And I'd invite you to know that Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
It's just a soundbite they gave her that to say. I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors, the top professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country. And just to finish off, she doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences, like run, spot, run. 4 sentences that are just, oh, we'll try and lower taxes. She doesn't have a plan. Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a plan.
Mr. President, I do want to drill down on something you both brought up. The Vice President brought up your tariffs.
I wonder who would be regulating her behind the scenes if she became president, because you know she would not be able to do it herself. She would have all kinds of people in her ear. I could just see her just listening to so many people, and God only knows what would happen. Another war could happen. Anything could happen. People would try her. I don't feel confident in this type of person right here. Ain't no telling who would be regulating her husband, maybe his friends, who knows? Think about that. She's a woman who never has had this type of level of responsibility. I cannot imagine someone like her being able to do it. A good job at that, especially being a vice president right now and really acting like she's never ever touched that position this whole entire time. And I'm glad that later on Donald's going to talk about that. Anyways, I'm not believing in this chameleon. I'm not feeling what she's saying. I don't know why people are still screaming out her name. I'm so clueless. I don't feel the radiation of confidence. I think it's all an act. I'm going to say that over and over again. It's all an act. She practiced in the mirror. She got her little expressions down, the way that she's going to turn and look. She wanted a certain position so she can look a certain way. Magic. That's it. That's all.
Responded, and let's drill down on this, because your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on foreign imports across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming into this country. As you know, many economists say that with tariffs at that level, costs are then passed on to the consumer. Vice President Harris has argued it'll mean higher prices on gas, food, clothing, medication, arguing it costs the typical family nearly $4,000 a year. Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have, and who's going to have higher prices, is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And, you know, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration. We are going to take in billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country, because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else.
You ain't never lied right there. It is so hard to get just $20 to stretch like it used to. Now you can barely get two things together in a bag. It is unbelievable what's going on with this inflation and the cost of everything. And it's all behind this woman and her boss, Biden, who is a no-show and hiding. Where the hell is he? Who is running this country right now? It is wild out here. We looking crazy out here. This is unbelievable. She was just made a nominee. This has never happened, I don't think, ever, has it? That you just step in and be the nominee without votes?
People of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Vice President Harris, I do want to ask for your response. And you heard what the president said there, because the Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is, under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them.
Were you recently injured in a car accident?
To China to help them improve and modernize their military, basically sold us out, when a policy about China should be in making sure the United States of America wins the competition for the 21st century, which means focusing on the details of what that requires, focusing on relationships with our allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology so that we win the race on AI, on quantum computing, focusing on what we need to do to support America's workforce so that we don't end up having on the short end of the stick in terms of workers' rights. But what Donald Trump did, let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi for what he did during COVID. Look at his tweet. Thank you, President Xi, exclamation point, when we know that Xi was responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origins of COVID.
President Trump, I'll let you respond.
First of all,
And that's why China should be held accountable for that whole debacle. Why are people not charging China for that shit? I don't get that part. Maybe Trump's thinking about doing that. Who knows? But she wouldn't do it. She ain't gonna be doing nothing but keeping that damn border wide open and having more of her people from India and all over the place still come in. This place is gonna turn into a second, third world in the next 5 years if we let this woman touch that Oval Office. I hope y'all listening to me. I know that a lot of people hate Trump's brass talking ways, the way that he looks hawkish and all that kind of stuff, but he got the right heart. He got the right heart for the job. I'm sorry. I see through her bullshit and I'm not buying it, and I hope others will not buy it. Vote Trump.
the chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat.
Exactly. Going to his philosophy, flip-flopping all over the place. Now she's agreeing with all the things he's saying so that she can get his voters. A chameleon knows how to flip-flop. That's what she does. Ain't nobody buying that routine. Nobody's buying that act, miss.
She's gone to my philosophy, but if she ever got elected, she'd change it. And it will be the end of our country. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist.
Bingo.
Her father's a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well. But when you look at what she's done to our country, and when you look at...
Hey, look how she tried to get her chin together. Look. Oh, no. Her father was a professor and a Marxist. Yeah, look him up. Look him up. She was reared up by her father at some point in her life. I don't think they're close now. But she still has that philosophy. That's why that border is still open. That's why she's not rushing to make an impression of closing that border right now. Wouldn't that impress y'all if that border was closed? Wouldn't you feel some kind of way that at least it's been taken care of? Yet she won't do it because she wants us to believe that she will take care of it once she becomes in office. But meanwhile, we got to wait and suffer all these months still. We still got to wait and suffer, all behind her. And y'all thinking about rewarding her despite her not doing her job.
These millions and millions of people that are pouring into our country monthly, where it's, I believe, 21 million people, not the 15 that people say, and I think it's a lot higher than the 21. That's bigger than New York State pouring in. And just look at what they're doing to our country. They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals. And that's bad for our economy, too. You know, you mentioned before, we'll talk about immigration later.
And if she don't have no empathy or sympathy for none of the criminals coming through, you see her smug little face, her look. She's not going to say anything. I'm going to address these criminals that are coming over here. We're going to protect the American people. Is she going to say any of that? Let's watch and see.
Well, bad immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and she has, destroyed our country with policy that's insane. Almost policy that you'd say they have to hate our country.
President Trump, thank you. Lindsay.
I want to turn to the issue of abortion. President Trump, you've often touted that you were able to kill Roe v. Wade. Last year, you said that you were proud to be the most pro-life president in American history. Then last month, you said that your administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your 6-week abortion ban because you initially had said that it was too short. And you said, quote, I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times. Therefore, why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, is doing an excellent job, but the governor before, he said, the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical. The Democrats are radical in that. And her vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, because he is really out of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's execution, no longer abortion.
Now, I hope that he can show proof to what he's saying right here, because it really does sound a little bit far-fetched. I hope that he has something to back him up for saying something such as this. But so I'm wondering if he will. That would be great. If he doesn't, that does seem far-fetched, and that does take a point from him right there for saying that, if he can't show proof where that source comes from or actual scenario. That's my opinion. Let's go.
Because the baby is born is okay, and that's not okay with me, hence the vote. But what I did is something for 52 years they've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states. And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. exceptions. Very important. But we were able to get it, and now states are voting.
And I think that is fairly reasonable, considering, we should not treat abortion like it's going to the candy store or something like that. People have to be held accountable. There's other options that people could use. This is a first world country. A lot of us are not taking the options to use, and it doesn't make sense to just always rely on abortion. So to have parameters set about abortion, I think it's fair, with the exceptions of, like he said, rape, incest, or the mother's life. Those should be and always be available to women in those instances. But just because 8 or 9 of them just doing it over and over and over again, not being held accountable for, trying to get off and do something that would prevent, the inevitable, so that maybe you wouldn't be scarring your body and doing all kinds of rough stuff to your body, because that has implications if you overdo abortions, I'm sure, with your body being, scarred out. Anyways, let's go.
On it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years. Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote. And that's what happened. Now, Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in doing it. It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
I don't know if that was her place to say. Does moderators do that? Do they help out the debate in saying something off cuff like that? Because they could did another video and fact checked and brought it up then to showcase. Is that a normal thing for moderators to do? I don't know. Let me know if that's normal for them to input into the debate like that. I thought that was not necessary.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact. Let's understand how we got here. Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that...
He just said it was the 3 exceptions, so she is just reading off her script like she's trained to do these questions in advance. And she's saying this knowing full well that more than likely is not the truth, but yet she can't help herself because she's stuck on a script that she has to say verbatim or it would throw everything off. So it just kind of feels generic right here. Let's go.
A survivor of a crime, a violation to their body, does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is immoral. And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot. She didn't want that. Her husband didn't want that. A 12 or 13-year-old survivor of incest being forced to carry a pregnancy to term. They don't want that. And I pledge to you,
well, I would want the question to be then, Kamala Harris, have you ever had an abortion? Because she doesn't have no kids and she's older in life. Wouldn't that be a fair question, since she's such a strong proponent for abortion, to ask her, have you ever had an abortion? And that question never came up. I wish to goodness I was a moderator. That really would have had her shook. But nah, she got friendly people that's working with her. Let's go.
Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade. As President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national abortion, a monitor that would be monitored.
Why would that be intrusive when she is a proponent for abortion? She wants that to be the going thing that Black people migrate to for abortion rights, for women's so-called rights. She's making that our only thing to want in this whole damn campaign. So why would that be intrusive to ask her, since she's so gung-ho about Black Americans having access to that? I think that's a fair question. Why would that be intrusive? She's older. She's running for presidency. I don't see nothing wrong.
Your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American people believe that certain freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's own body, should not be made by the government.
Thank you, Vice President Harris.
Well, there she goes again. It's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban, because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states, and the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart, and they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter, because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it came
Well, I
to your
won't
desk?
have to, because again, two things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50, essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of? When they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe. The student loans, and then her, I think probably her boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. But look, her boss went out and said, we'll do it again. We'll do it a different way. And he went out, got rejected again by the Supreme Court. So all these students got taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea. And how unfair that would have been. Part of the reason they lost to the millions and millions of people that had to pay off their student loans. They didn't get it for free. But they were saying it's the same way that they talked about that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. in all fairness. J.D., and I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me, but I really didn't. Look, we don't have to discuss it, because she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They taunted young people and a lot of other people that had loans. They can never get this approved. So it doesn't matter what she says about going to Congress. So wonderful, let's go to Congress, do it. But the fact is that for years they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government. And we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
Vice President Harris, I want to give you your time to respond, but I do want to ask, would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade. And as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America. And understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans. Couples who pray and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments. What is happening in our country? Working people, working women who are working 1 or 2 jobs, who can barely afford childcare as it is, have to travel to an...
As she cares, she doesn't care. I don't know why she's doing this stunt, but again, this fake emotionalism doesn't really resonate with her. She's trying so hard to have the empathy and sympathy, but it just doesn't reach me. Does it reach y'all?
Another state, to get on a plane sitting next to strangers, to go and get the health care she needs, barely can afford to do it, and what you are putting her through is unconscionable. And the people of America have not, the majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body, and that is why in every state where this issue has been on the ballot in red and blue...
So she's showing us tenderness to take away the life of children. That's the tenderness that she has for us. She don't have tenderness for the American folks, though. She doesn't have any concern or regard for what the sufferings of Americans are right now behind what she's been doing and allowed to have happen. But she got all this empathy and sympathy for the death, the unaliving of little bitty babies. It's very interesting to me. Just listen to her.
It's both. The people of America have voted for freedom.
Vice President.
Excuse me, I have to respond. Another lie. It's another lie. I have been a leader on IVF, which is fertilization. The IVF, I have been a leader. In fact, when they got a very negative decision on IVF from the Alabama courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF. And the other thing, you should ask, will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask me that
Why
question?
don't you answer the question with your
Because
veto?
under Roe v.
Answer
Wade,
the question with your veto.
you could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th
That's
month,
not true.
and probably after birth. Just look at the former governor of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said we put the baby aside and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
President Trump, thank you.
That has to be confirmed. I think Trump has to get that confirmed. You can't say stuff like that without actually getting a fact checker on a scenario or case that has actually happened. And I hope that he does so. I hope that they don't let that just stand, because that makes him look ridiculous. You know, it does make him look ridiculous right there. I still am rocking with him, but that part right there made him look ridiculous. Let's go.
Now to immigration and border security. We know it's an issue that's important to Republicans, Democrats, voters across the board in this country. Vice President Harris, you were tasked by President Biden with getting to the root causes of migration from Central America. We know that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then have dropped significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations.
But we're not talking about prosecution. We're talking about immigration now. We're talking about why the border's been left open. We're talking about why all these people up in this place right now. And she's deflecting again. When she doesn't want to answer a question, she deflects back to Trump. This is a tactic. This is deflection. She is a slippery snake, chameleon, whatever you want to call her. But people think that shit's cute, and it's not.
For the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. And let me say that the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill, which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500
We're talking
border
about
agents on.
We're talking about here and now, miss. We're talking about since you've been in office all this time, 3.5 years, miss. We're talking about what have you been doing all this damn time, miss. That's what we're talking about, not before, bills before, not while Trump was in office before, but here and now. You know that song by Luther, Here and Now? Here and now.
The border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime trying to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill?
She still hasn't answered the question, y'all. She totally flipped from answering the question. I wonder if she really addressed it afterwards. Let's go.
Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And understand, this comes at a time where the people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration.
Again, she has an opportunity today to fix this problem, to go to Biden and say, let's do this before you leave office. Let's help jumpstart my campaign by closing that border. They obviously have an agenda. Obviously, because it's not that hard to do. And I'm glad that Trump brought it up to do in the live, in this stream or this debate. Let's go.
Not tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch.
Again, what's this got to do with Trump when the question was about her and Biden's administration allowing all these people to come into the borders, to come into America, to be here illegally, to be overwhelming the economy right now, to be overwhelming the citizens of Chicago, New York, Colorado, Ohio? Why isn't she addressing that? Again, she does not care. It is not her problem to care. So she is deflecting and putting this all back on Trump, and she loses a point, in my opinion, for not answering the question. Let's go.
See, during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first. And I pledge to you that I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump.
So once she becomes in office, somehow she's going to care about the border, but she never, ever uttered the word of closing the border, not one time, or uttered the word of why the border was left open and why all these people up in this country. She totally flipped it, and they let her get away with it. They are befriending of her. They're friends, apparently. Let's see if he follows up and says, well, hold up. We asked you, why all these people here? What about that border, Miss Harris, Mrs. Harris? What about it, Kamala?
Point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so? That would have put thousands of additional agents in office.
So they let her redirect the question that they had in the first place for Harris. They're working together. First it was the lady that took it upon herself to interject herself and talk about what other There's no doctor that does this. There's no procedure after these many months. And now we have a redirect, and this guy is going along with the redirect like he's in on it. What about their question? Isn't their question more important than her redirect? Interesting.
On the board.
First, let me respond to the rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there, and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics.
What rallies got to do with leadership, though? Who cares? She's making it about popularity now. She's making it about so-called popularity, the appearance of something. I'm hearing that she's paying fools to come on the bus or whatever and go to the rallies. She's not as popular as everybody would like it to be. And she doesn't have that zazz like Obama had. I'm sorry, she thinks that she does, or she should share the same pizzazz, but she just don't got it. I wouldn't be up here talking if she had it. She ain't got it.
That's because people want to take their country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs.
And that's a good thing you said that earpiece. There's something in Harris's ear, y'all. Look at her ear. That is not an earring. That looks like an earpiece. That looks like a little somebody, a recorder, or somebody might be in her ear talking to her. Who knows? What is that? I wonder. Very interesting.
The people that came in, they're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live.
People want to make light of people eating cats and geese and ducks in Ohio. There's the people that's going out saying these things. I will show a video a little bit later about that. I don't think none of it's funny. Even if it was 1 or 2 instances, it's still enough to cause alarm for the residents that don't have that type of culture to put up with something like that. But it's all fun and games. But these different culture clashes that are coming to America, all these different people from all over the world coming over here, they have their religions or traditionals or cultural, whatever, and they're bringing all that stuff here too. So it's not funny. It's not funny at all.
There, and this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame. As far as rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase, make America great again. She's destroying this country, and if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well, I've seen people on television.
Let me just say.
Again, he's interjecting, helping out like the lady did before. There is a video of a lady that was found with a cat trying to eat it. It was dead. Someone saying that is from another part of Ohio, not there in that particular city. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but there was a lady caught with a cat, and I had that on my last video that I showed from Professor Nez. He has the footage from the cop that caught the lady in that state. And then, of course, the photo of a person, a Haitian, holding a geese or a duck by the neck was also one of the confirmation that did happen. That supposedly also was Springfield. But the other place, the other cat situation might not have been Springfield. I think it's called, Springfield, Ohio. Anyways, why is he interjecting though? Why can't they just do a separate video and bring it up then? They're not doing this to Harris. They're not asking her hard questions. They're not doubling down. They're doubling down on Trump. And they're showing biasness to how they're doing this moderation. So it's not cool.
This is
Moderating.
People on television say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
But the
television.
people on
I'm taking it from
television
the
say
city
the
manager.
dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice
We'll
President
find
Harris,
out.
I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
Talk about extreme. This is, I think, one of the reasons why in this election, I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formerly worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain, including the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney and Congress member Liz Cheney.
All these elitists that she's been warning that Trump would be support of, and she is getting support of those same people, elitists that she talks about, that she's also fond of. It's very interesting. Let's go.
And if you want to really know the inside track on who the former president is, if he didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a 4-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit. His former Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the Republic, would never survive another Trump term. And when we listen to this kind of rhetoric, when the issues that affect the American people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump, I'll give you a quick minute to respond.
Yeah. Thank you, because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people. Not so graciously. They did bad things or a bad job. I fired them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people who's were just killed, viciously and violently killed. And I got to know the parents and the family. They didn't fire. They should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations anybody has ever seen. So when somebody does a bad job, I fire him. And you take a guy like Esper, he was no good, I fired him, so he writes a book. Another one writes a book, because with me they can write books, with nobody else can they. But they have done such a poor job, and they never fire anybody. Look at the economy. Look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists. They have the same people. That's a good way not to have.
Preach. That's what I'm talking about. He brought an uppercut to the chin with this.
Books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any sitting president in history by far.
Let me continue on immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about earlier, so let's get back to your deportation proposal that the vice president has reacted to as well. President Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard. You say if things get out of control, you'd have no problem using the U.S. military.
Police, yes.
You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah. It is much higher because of them. They allowed criminals, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers, to come into a country.
All unvetted men from all over the place, including China, India, Africa, Venezuela, Mexico, you name it, More than likely, they are over here. They made a track over here. Unvetted people that we do not know. We have cells of other dangerous groups of people from the Middle East and all kinds of places. I think ISIL, Islamic groups, extremist groups have been caught, and there's still other people that are still here in America, snuggled up somewhere. And he should want to get rid of those types of people, starting with them. We shouldn't settle with having dangerous people, gangs and whatnot, hanging out and doing the most, taking over apartment complexes and buildings and robbing people and just doing whatever the hell they want to do and getting away with it, a slap on the wrist. He has to do something. Kamala's not going to do any damn thing. More is going to pour in, and we're going to be more at danger and risk. More crimes, more rapes, more robberies, more murders, more against the American people. The only person that cares about stopping that is Trump. She does not give any inclination that she is going to try to stave it off, slow it down, cut it off. Nothing comes from her in that regard, just deflection. I'm sick of this woman. Let's go.
And then now in the United States, and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in, and all over the world, crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof, despite their fraudulent statements that they made. Crime in this country is through the roof, and we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime, and it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But
excuse me, the FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud, just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created.
So that's the third time that the moderators have interjected on behalf of Harris, benefiting her in the debate. He has not gotten that same treatment. She has not gotten that same treatment as he's getting. So it is obviously tilted and slanted, and it should go next. It probably not going to be no other debate. This probably was the only debate, and it was kind of rigged, y'all. That's my perception. It's kind of rigged. So Trump had to do what he had to do because he's fighting all three of them. He's fighting all three of them.
Be a fraud.
President Trump, thank you. I'll let you respond, Vice President Harris.
Well, I think this is so rich, coming from someone who has been prosecuted for national security crimes, economic crimes, election interference, has been found liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. And let's be clear where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward, that we turn the page on this same old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for, address what we must do to support our small businesses, address bringing down the price of groceries. But frankly, the American people are exhausted with this same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Excuse me. Every one of those cases was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York. Every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election. They're fake cases.
President Trump, thank you. A really quick response.
Again, he is being double, tripled on him. He's going against everybody in the room. So, you know, these questions are definitely benefiting Harris, and they're not really giving and asking too much of her to really say something directly. When they direct question to her, she's able to deflect and get around it and just put it off on Trump. It just doesn't seem like a genuine debate, and it's unfortunate that Trump has to put up with this, but I think he did a good job considering being triple timed against him. So here we go.
Response here, Vice President Harris, on this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this election in 2024 is taking place. The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. Understand, this is someone who has openly said he would terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. Someone who has openly expressed disdain for members of our military. Understand what it would mean if Donald Trump were back in the White House with no guardrails, because certainly we know now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people
Vice
to
President
stop
Harris,
him.
thank you. Lindsay.
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president.
This is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy with a fake Russia investigation
We do have a lot to
that
get.
went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to, Lindsay.
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss every one of the...
Her values have not changed, but she's flip-flopped on different stances that she's about to try to explain away right here. So it's very interesting how she thinks she can just say something and it's supposed to just be magically accepted.
Every point that you've made, but in particular, let's talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States, and in fact, I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened new leases for fracking. My position is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil. We have had the largest increase in domestic oil production in history because of an approach that recognizes that we cannot over-rely on foreign oil. As it relates to my values, let me tell you, I grew up a middle-class kid raised by a hardworking mother.
We don't give a damn about how you were raised as a kid. We're talking about you as a woman right here and now. Again, she's always deflecting. That's all she knows how to do, y'all. Deflect. This person is very, very deceptive. She has in her nothing but lies to spew. She cannot answer a direct question about what's really going on with her flip-flops. And now she wants to talk about how she was a kid. I don't care about you being a kid. What's that got to do with you today? You ain't a kid today, are you?
Who worked and saved and was able to buy our first home when I was a teenager. The values I bring to the importance of home ownership, knowing not everybody got handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, is a value that I bring to my work.
Again, we're talking about her flip-flopping, and she's talking about Trump again. And they're not going to get at her for doing it. That's why I know they all bedfellows. They bedfellows. Trump never had a chance. That's why he had to go a little bit more rough as time picks up. And that's what I feel. He got frustrated because he knew that nothing was going to be fair for him. That's my opinion. But he still overall won the debate, especially one question that's coming up that she answered, I hope is going to come. Oh, when she said all Americans, and I think she might emphasize that again, she's implying that she was going to make these illegals Americans. And I'm asking, how is that going to have an ill effect to our society as Americans, America, the meaning of what we have been, and our Constitution, the process of what we all went through history and lineage, fights and whatnot. Now people are just snatching up rights, just getting whatever, just illegals just coming over here, storming the door, the border, everything is being stormed. Let's go. Come on.
To say we are going to work with the private sector and home builders to increase by 3 million homes by the end of my first term. My work that is related to having a friend when I was in high school who was sexually assaulted by her stepfather. And my focus then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded in the importance of standing up for those who are most vulnerable. My work that is about protecting Social Security and Medicare is based on long-standing work.
I don't think she did a good job answering this question. I would take a point from her from this question, line of answering of the question. I'm sorry. She right now is -2. Trump, she is 2 points in the hole and Trump is 1 point in the hole. I believe Trump has been winning up until this point. Again, he's going to get more frustrated because he realizes he's being triple teamed. This is a biased interview, and he really never had a chance to have a fair balance back and forth like he's getting, that she should be getting, and she's able to avoid because these people are all obviously her bedfellows.
I have done protecting seniors from scams. My values have not changed. And what is important is that there is a president who actually brings values and a perspective that is about lifting people up and not beating people down and name calling. The true measure of the leader.
So what if a name's been called? We talking about leadership. We talking about who is going to run this country. We talking about who's going to get shit back together in order. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about why is everything in disarray right now? Because of you, ma'am. Because of Biden, ma'am. Because of your team, ma'am. All the above. You need to go. You need to go bye-byes for good. This is what we're talking about, but you get to slip through the crevices like a snake. You get to become a chameleon and flip-flop and do all the dancing around the question as you want. And people is going to give you credit because you have something good to say to tingle their ears for a moment. It's not tingling my ears, it's insulting.
Is the leader who actually understands that strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up. I intend to be that president.
President Trump, your
Well, first of
response?
all, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I've built it into many, many billions of dollars, many, many billions. And when people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years.
Again, Trump had to bring it back up, not the moderators. The moderators are leaving her alone. They not touching her with a 10-foot pole. He got to moderate for his damn self, y'all. That's why he had to become extra. That's why he became frustrated. Y'all have to keep this in mind and listen and watch how the moderators have been attacking it, Trump, and how they've been letting her just slide on by.
Fund the police. She's been against that forever. She gave all that stuff up very wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out, wait a minute, I'm talking now.
It would be one thing if they would do the same thing they're doing to Trump, but because it's only doing it to Trump, that's what's making this not right with this so-called notion of fact checking, as you guys would like to call it. Now, Trump is about to go in. Let me make sure you watch that part. Here we go.
She's been against that forever. She gave all that stuff up very wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out, wait a minute, I'm talking now. If you don't mind, please. Does that sound familiar? She went out in Minnesota and wanted to let criminals that killed people, that burned down Minneapolis.
Sound familiar?
She went out and raised money to get them out of jail. She did things that nobody would ever think of. Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison.
Oh,
This is a
God.
radical left liberal that would do this. She wants to confiscate your guns, and she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. Just to finish one thing so important in my opinion. So I got the oil business going like nobody has ever done before. When they took over, they got rid of it, started getting rid of it, and the prices were going up the roof. They immediately let these guys go to where they were. I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher, because you're talking about 3.5 years ago. They got it up to where I was because they had no choice, because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline. So they said, let's go back to Trump. But if she won the election, the day after that election, they'll go back to destroying our country, and oil will be dead, fossil fuel will be dead. We'll go back to windmills, and we'll go back to solar, where they need a whole desert to get some energy to come out. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar, but they take 400, 500 acres of desert soil.
Trump, we have a
These
lot
are
of
not good
issues
things
that we
for the
have to get
environment,
to.
as
We're
she
out of time.
understands.
Thank you.
Lindsay, thank you. We have an election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy, and the role of a president in a moment of crisis. Mr. President, on January 6th, you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You said you would be right there with them. The country and the world saw what played out at the Capitol that day, the officers coming under attack. Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out that message telling your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just said a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace. but we didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I ask, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing people that she allowed to pour in? She was the border czar, remember that. She was the border czar. She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said at the beginning, well, I'm surprised you're not talking about the border yet. That's because she knows what a bad job they've done. What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When are these people from countries all over the world, not just South America? They're coming in from all over the world, David, all over the world, and crime rates are down all over the world because of it.
But let me just ask you,
David, when are those people going to be prosecuted? When are the people that burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted? Or in Seattle, they went into Seattle, they took over a big percentage of the city of Seattle. When are those people going to be prosecuted?
but let me just ask
You
you,
might ask her that question.
you were the president.
Yeah, you might. That's what I'm saying. He had to be the moderator his own damn self. He had to be the moderator his own damn self. This don't make no sense. Y'all think that Kamala won this, or do you think Trump won this? I think Trump's winning because of all the things that are set up against him and how he was obviously outnumbered and how she was able to skid by answering questions. And they didn't like put her on the cross. They didn't hyper-examine what she said. Not nan time. So he won.
You were watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day? Yes, sir.
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago, her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi, but I do want Vice President Harris to respond here.
I was at the Capitol on January 6th. I was the vice president-elect. I was also an acting senator. I was there. And on that day, the president of the United States incited a violent mob to attack our nation's capital, to desecrate our nation's capital. On that day, 140 law enforcement officers were injured, and some died. And understand, the former president has been indicted and impeached for exactly that reason. But this is not an isolated situation. Let's remember Charlottesville, where there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate. And what did the president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side. Let's remember that when it came to the Proud Boys, a militia, the former president said, stand back and stand by. So for everyone watching who remembers what January 6th was, I say, we don't have to go back. Let's not go back. We're not going back. It's time to turn the page. And if that was a bridge too far for you, well, there is a place in our campaign for you to stand for country, to stand for
Oh God, for country, really. She's the last person that should be using that type of rhetoric for country. You did everything to be a traitor to our country with all the influx of all these unidentified, unvetted people that you have allowed in, young men that could be a part of war and all this type of stuff. Well, she got a lot of nerve talking about country. She just has a script to read. She has it memorized. She's going to say it no matter what, fit it in, no matter what. They're allowing her to direct this debate, and they are double and triple teaming Trump. and this is obviously biased, and I watched it, but I didn't really look at it like I'm looking at it now, and this is my my thoughts about it. Let's go.
Democracy to stand for rule of law and to end the chaos and to end the approach that is about attacking the foundations of our democracy because you don't like the outcome. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath. If this and the outcome of this election is not to...
A bloodbath might be in the works. You never know. There's been so much tension felt throughout this country for so long. We got so many things going on wrong for so long. 3.5 years, so long. People are wanting to respond. It's a matter of when. I would not be surprised if something happened during the elections or right after the elections. I hope not. But it's really, really scary. And it's because of the temperament of this country and what has been going on. So you got that right. Something could happen. But it wouldn't be the fault of Trump. It would be the fault of you and Biden for allowing the things that you guys have allowed. And no one is addressing that. No one is pointing the finger at her. No one is shaking her to reality. She just allowed to just sit there and try to look pretty. Let's go.
His liking. Let's turn the page on this. Let's not go back. Let's chart a course for the future and not go backwards to the past.
Let me just follow up here.
It was a different term, and it was a term that related to energy because they have destroyed our energy business. That was where bloodbath was. Also, one Charlottesville. That story has been, as you would say, debunked. Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jesse, all of these people, they covered it. If they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every newspaper, but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up. They bring all of this stuff up. I ask you this, you talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very...
Again, he has to be the moderator because the moderators are not moderating for him. They're moderating for her. And I'm glad that he decided to do this. So he's about to get an offer to her. And this is the right move that he made right here.
To do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills. They have the right to do it. The President of the United States, you'll get him out of bed, you'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you say, come on down to the office, let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill.
Come up at 4 p.m. That's exactly what's going on. Homeboy is nowhere to be seen or heard of. Again, like what the hell is going on with Biden? Is he got a double or something going on? What is happening?
That the border is closed. All he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed.
Mr.
Those
President,
people are killing many people, unlike J6.
We talked immigration here tonight. I do want to focus on this next issue to both of you because it really brings us this into focus, truth in these times that we're living in. Mr. President, for 3.5 years after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won.
Again, they just working on his nerves. They working on Trump's nerves. Look at Trump. He about had it.
A landslide. In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short. Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
No, I don't acknowledge it at all. I said that sarcastically. You know that. It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically. Look, there's so much proof. All you have to do is look at it. And they should have sent it back to the legislatures for approval. I got almost 75 million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever gotten. I was told if I got 63, which was what I got.
I have to be honest, I thought it was rigged too. I before he even said it, I thought that shit was saying that people came out for Biden on the level of Obama. Come on. No one came out for Biden on the level of Obama. I only voted one time for Obama's ass. That's how rare that was. And other people came out for the first time ever in their whole entire life. They didn't do that for no damn Biden. Come on, y'all. But Trump saying just sounds bad. But I believe that what he's saying is true. Somehow Biden won and they used the black card. Oh, the black woman came out in droves. The black people. Oh, the black people.
2016, you can't be beaten. The election, people should never be thinking about an election as fraudulent. We need two things. We need walls, and we have to have it. We have to have borders, and we have to have good elections. Our elections are bad. And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't even speak English. They don't even know what country they're in practically. And these people are trying to get them to vote. And that's why they're allowing them to come into our country.
I did watch all of these pieces of video. I didn't detect the sarcasm, lost my whisker. We didn't quite make it. And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them.
Again, they are like chastising him, really coming after him. This is not a friendly moderator situation for him. I'm surprised that he didn't snap on their asses, to be honest with you. And I didn't really notice it because I was just doing other things. But now I'm watching it and I'm seeing how they just keep coming back after him. They're not doing that to Mrs. Harris. That's not happening to that woman.
Looked at it and said they said we didn't have standing. That's the other thing. They said we didn't have standing, a technicality. Can you imagine a system where a person in an election doesn't have standing? The president of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you do a special on it, I'll show you Georgia, and I'll show you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania, and I'll show you, we have so many facts and statistics, but you know what? That doesn't matter, because we have to solve the problem that we have right now. That's old news, and the problem that we have right now is we have a nation in decline, and they have put it into decline. We have a nation that is dying, David.
Mr. President, thank you. Vice President Harris, you heard the president there tonight. He said he didn't say that he lost my whisker, so he still believes he did not lose the election that was won by President Biden and yourself. But I do want to ask you about something that's come up in the last couple of days. This was a post from President Trump about this.
Look how comfortable and nonchalant she is. Just so comfortable.
Coming election just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us. We won't let him suppress the vote. Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that. But we cannot afford to have a president of the United States who attempts, as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States. And world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump. I have talked with military leaders, some of whom worked with you, and they say you're a disgrace. And when you then talk in this way in a presidential debate and deny what
so far, again, they are deflecting and just allowing this to go back at Trump over and over and over and over again.
Over and over again are court cases you have lost because you did in fact lose that election. It leads one to believe that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be confused about fact. That's deeply troubling, and the American people deserve better.
I'll give you 1 minute to respond, Mr. President.
Let me just say about world leaders. Viktor Orban, one of the most respected men, they call him a strong man. He's a tough person, smart. Prime Minister of Hungary. They said, why is the whole world blowing up? 3 years ago it wasn't. Why is it blowing up? He said, because you need Trump back as president. They were afraid of him. China was afraid, and I don't like to use the word afraid, but I'm just quoting him. China was afraid of him. North Korea was afraid of him. Look at what's going on with North Korea, by the way. He said Russia was afraid of him. I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and Biden put it back on day one, but he ended the XL pipeline. The XL pipeline in our country, he ended that. But he let the Russians build a pipeline going all over Europe and heading into Germany, the biggest pipeline in the world. Look, Viktor Orban said it. He said the most respected, most feared person is Donald Trump. We had no problems when Trump was president. But when this weak, pathetic man that you saw at a debate just a few months ago, that if he weren't in that debate, he'd be running instead of her. She got no votes. He got 14 million votes. What you did, you talk about a threat to democracy. He got 14 million votes and they threw him out of office. And you know what? I'll give you a little secret. He hates her. He can't stand her. But he got 14 million votes. They threw him out. She got 0 votes. And when she ran, she was the first one to leave because she failed. And now she's running. I don't understand it, but I'm okay with it because
your time is
I think we're going to do very well.
We've got a lot more to get to.
Turning now
Yes.
to the Israel-Hamas war and the hostages who are still being held, Americans among them. Vice President Harris, in December, you said, quote, Israel has a right to defend itself, but you added, quote, it matters how, saying international humanitarian law must be respected. Israel must do more to protect innocent civilians. You said that 9 months ago. Now an estimated 40,000 Palestinians are dead. Nearly 100 hostages remain. Just last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there's not a deal in the making. President Biden has not been able to break through the stalemate. How would you do it?
Well, let's understand how we got here. On October 7, Hamas, a terrorist organization, slaughtered 1,200 Israelis. Many of them young people who were simply attending a concert. Women were horribly raped. And so absolutely, I said then, I say now, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters. Because it is also true, far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. Children, mothers. What we know is that this war must end. It must end immediately, and the way it will end is we need a ceasefire deal and we need the hostages out. And so we will continue to work around the clock on that. Work around the clock, also understanding that we must chart a course for a two-state solution. And in that solution, there must be security for the Israeli people and Israel, and in equal measure for the Palestinians. But the one thing I will assure you always, I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself, in particular as it relates to Iran and any threat that Iran and its proxies pose to Israel. But we must have a two-state solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians have security, self-determination, and the dignity they so rightly deserve.
President Trump, how would you negotiate with Netanyahu and also Hamas in order to get the hostages out and prevent the killing of more innocent civilians in Gaza?
If I were president, it would have never started. If I were president, Russia would have never, ever, I know Putin very well, he would have never, and there was no threat of it either, by the way, for 4 years, have gone into Ukraine and killed millions of people when you add it up, far worse than people understand what's going on over there. But when she mentions about Israel, all of a sudden, she hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech. She refused to be there because she was at a sorority party of hers. She wanted to go to the sorority party. She hates Israel. If she's president, I believe that Israel will not exist within 2 years from now. And I've been pretty good at predictions, and I hope I'm wrong about that one. She hates Israel. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population because the whole place is going to get blown up. Arabs, Jewish people, Israel will be gone. It would have never happened. Iran was broke under Donald Trump. Now Iran has $300 billion because they took off all the sanctions that I had. Iran had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the 28 different spheres of terror. And they are spheres of terror, horrible terror. They had no money. It was a big story, and you know it. You covered it very well, actually. They had no money for terror. They were broke. Now they're a rich nation, and now what they're doing is they're spreading that money around. Look at what's happening with the Houthis and Yemen. Look at what's going on in the Middle East. This would have never happened. I will get that settled and fast, and I'll get the war with Ukraine and Russia ended. If I'm president-elect, I'll get it done before even becoming president.
Vice President Harris, he says you hate Israel.
That's absolutely not true. I have my entire career and life supported Israel and the Israeli people. He knows that. He's trying to, again, divide and distract from the reality, which is it is very well known that Donald Trump is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy. It is well known that he admires dictators, wants to be a dictator on day one, according to himself. It is well known that he said of Putin that he can do whatever the hell he wants and go into Ukraine. It is well known that he said when Russia went into Ukraine, it was brilliant. It is well known he exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un. And it is absolutely well known that these dictators and autocrats are rooting for you to be president again because they're so clear. They can manipulate you with flattery and favors. And that is why so many military leaders who you have worked with have told me you are a disgrace. That is why we understand that we have to have a president who is not consistently weak and wrong on national security, including the importance of upholding and respecting in highest regard our military.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
And she's the one that caused it, that's weak on national security by allowing every nation last month for the year, 168 different countries sending people into our country. Their crime rates are way down. Putin endorsed her last week, said, I hope she wins. And I think he meant it because what he's gotten away with is absolutely incredible.
And I'm glad that he said that because one of my moderators have something to share in that regard. Like she is being supported by Putin. So that says a whole lot. Let me see if I can bring up that video real quick. And then I'm going to take a mini break. I thought that they were going to take a break well before now, and they haven't. So I'm sorry that I haven't been reading the chat room or anything like that. But I've been wanting most of the debate to be about what we could see. Let me see if I can catch that link. I hope I can catch it because it's been a minute since I could go up on this phone. Can you send the link again? Four Rivers, because I might have missed, because there's so many comments and I think that I've already missed your link. But I appreciate everybody for listening. If you have not yet, please do me a favor by liking and sharing and subscribing to my channel. I would greatly appreciate it. This is For Black Righteous Folks Home, or short for For Black. Again, why is it that Putin is in support of Kamala? That's a red flag to me. Does he think that he could bully her, intimidate her?
Russian President Vladimir Putin weighs in on the upcoming U.S. presidential election, saying he would support Democrat Kamala Harris in November.
It was a very odd statement, appearing to be a joke he made during the Eastern Economic Forum.
At the event, Putin suggested he would take President Joe Biden's advice about urging all allies to support Harris. Some audience members laughed at the comments, including the session moderator. Putin also commented on Trump, saying he had imposed more sanctions on Russia than any other president, adding he hoped Harris will refrain from doing the same.
Thank you for that. I really appreciate it. Let me see what you guys have been saying in the chat room. Thank y'all for being here. I know that maybe a lot of that went over a lot of people's head because of the biasness of the moderators and how they treated Trump, and they double, triple time teamed him. There's no way that she could have, or he could have looked better. I believe that she was definitely scripted. Roseanne says this is completely scripted. Exactly. Pinky says Putin wants her in office so he can toy with her. He knows she's not a challenge. Exactly. Relly G says they wouldn't listen to her at all, so I don't know what she is talking about. Exactly. Consumer Bad says Harris for a KFC. Yeah, okay. 7up, the Ghost says, did they discuss rent inflation? They did a little bit with inflation, but, you know, they kept skirting around questions and they kept attacking Trump. So I feel that Trump won this debate. There's 30 more minutes to go. I'm going to take a little mini break with reading and then showcasing what's going on in Springfield, Ohio. And then we'll go back to the debate lastly so that you guys won't be too bored. You said here in PA, there are Harris signs everywhere, almost no Trump signs. That's okay. Caesar says, I don't really care for your definitions of how you classify it geographically. It is as far Middle East. Trump 2024, Joe says, both are the same. Wake up. I don't know about that. D-Walk. I think they're a little bit different. Stop smoking with your kid is, you talking about Scamala 2024. Yes, Jasmine America. Imagine serving in the military just to vote for Kamala. Embarrassing. Exactly, Lars. Mark says, you think Putin was serious? I bet you believe that the Haitian pet eating BS too. Oh, I believe that there was a case because I found that video actually, but it was done in another part of Ohio, was Canton, Ohio, was not Springfield, but actually someone was eating on a cat and also grabbing up a geese or a duck that was Haitian in Springfield. So yes, I do have proof for that. Make it make sense or make a kid debate you. The economy was better under Democrats than Republicans, except since the pandemic. It is a fact, liars. Anywho, it's a lot better 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago when Trump was president versus now. So I don't know what you're talking about. Rosalind says Kamala 2024. Okay, that's the devil is a lie. Jeff says wait and watch what kind of terrorist does us harm in the way near future. Okay. Blacks for Trump. That's what I hope for. That's what I hope for. Now, I'm not going to be able to read all the comments because I want to go back to this other video, and it's going to give me a chance to take a little mini break as you guys look at what's going on pertaining to Springfield, as it is from the people's mouth, the horse's mouth, what they're experiencing over there in Ohio. And like I said, it's controversy because people, they're more white over there, I would say. There are a few blacks that are sprinkled in that city, but it's predominantly white people. But they are going to talk about what's going on with the Haitians coming over there. I guess this city is about 60,000 people total, and they brought in 20,000 Haitians in the last few years, and more or less a lot lately. And it's really bothering the neighborhood. The culture clash is real. So I want to get to this and we'll go back to the debate after this.
There was Haitians in a white van driving around the neighborhoods, collecting cats, skinning them and eating them.
In my opinion, they're worthless. Bunch of worthless sand monkeys.
They're getting thousands of dollars in government assistance, even the cash assistance cards. They're calling them the magic money cards because they never run out.
Man, they're nothing but a headache. All they're doing is raising our rent and our taxes and wrecking vehicles.
Everybody wants to make this into a race issue. It's not a race issue. It's culture, it's accountability, and it's respect.
Since June, they took me off of I'm a vet. They took me off of the disability.
You're a veteran, and you're competing with some of the resources they're getting. You just came in here?
Yeah.
I need some solutions. I'm losing my mind.
This is Springfield, Ohio. What was once a small town in Ohio, home to roughly 60,000 working-class Americans, until 20,000 plus Haitian immigrants flooded into town with rumors of them eating the neighbors' cats and local geese.
What did you do? Why'd you kill the cat?
Did you eat that
cats. They're eating the pets.
And causing car accidents left and right, and driving locals out of their homes by paying above-market rental prices with welfare subsidized by the American taxpayer. Are these Haitians eating cats? How did they travel 2,000 plus miles from Haiti all the way to Ohio? And do the locals and their new Haitian neighbors get along? I pulled up to Springfield myself to see if this was real or overblown fake news. A lot of this is alleged because I truly don't know what's going on, and neither does Twitter. Twitter is relying off of a few images and a few Reddit threads. And there are rumors that Haitians are taking neighbors' cats and eating them. Are you from Haiti by chance? Does everyone get along here in Springfield?
Yes.
Good?
Good. Motherfuckers are worthless. Bunch of worthless sand monkeys. Yeah.
When did the Haitian neighbors come and move here?
I'm going to say probably 5 months ago.
I spoke to a few of them in French.
They're up there. Don't wave at me, you sorry sand monkey. I tell them like it is, man. I don't like them. I don't like them, and I want them to know I don't like them. Pack up and move back to Haitieville, where the fuck you're from.
Why did you come here to Springfield?
Springfield pour me travailler, pour me chercher la vie meilleure. Mais c'est haïtien.
Okay.
Les anciens.
Okay. Do you plan on living here for much longer?
Yeah.
Yeah. I heard there were rumors of Haitians eating the neighbor's cats and a Canadian goose. Is that true or completely false?
Non,
No?
non, même pas.
Okay.
On va ça.
Okay.
Pas dit baguette même bon. Et tout pas ça tout.
Okay.
Pas ça tout. Peut-être même qu'il doit avoir un problème d'éducation qui fait faire ça, mais pas quoi. C'est vraiment difficile pour ça d'arriver.
Okay.
We've lost a whole bunch of cats. There was a van pulled over that had over 100 cats in it with the Haitians. They said they was eating them.
Actually? Yeah. Not fake news.
Not fake news.
So a van was collecting cats and eating them.
I watched it happen, yeah. Watched them get pulled over with the cats and admit to the police that they was eating them.
You're not joshing with me.
No, I'm almost 50 years old, buddy. No.
You don't mess around.
No.
Twitter is saying the Haitians are eating cats and can't drive. Is that true? True or no? No. No, okay.
I believe it. Like, I've heard rumors about them taking the geese and killing them and eating them, so I try to stay clear away because I've even heard about them eating the eggs over there, so I'm like, okay, that's kind of disturbing if they're not.
There is. This is your guy right here?
Yes.
Okay.
So far, so good. I haven't had no issues, but they kind of know us.
And are they chill?
All right, I guess. I don't pay no mind to them.
You know, and they're everywhere. They take our fucking apartments. The landlords make the people move out so they can rent to the Haitians to get more money. You know, it's bullshit. You know, you go to the grocery store, there's no fucking grocery. Just, you know, they give them $3,000 a month plus food stamps. I'm an American, just like you.
Yeah.
And these motherfuckers come from Haitianville, wherever the fuck they're from, and they get everything. They get medical care paid and everything. You know, it's bullshit.
Where'd they get the money?
The government. They said it's a fucking program for them to
For like migrants, like asylum seekers?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they're like roaches, man.
Yeah, I get along with them as long as they don't go pulling their crazy machetes when they're out mowing their grass with it.
They brought out machetes?
Oh yeah, that's how they trim their yard.
Actually?
Yeah, it surprised me they let them all in, but I think that if they're going to come in, they should be legal and not illegal, and I don't see why they're giving them all this money and everything like that when our people are the ones suffering for all this, for them coming in. I'm getting ready to be homeless. They're getting ready to sell my house because of the Haitians.
You think a Haitian will move in?
Yeah, they're coming Wednesday to look at it.
Actually?
Yeah, and when they buy this house, we'll both be out here on the streets. We ain't got nowhere to go. We're on fixed income.
Are Haitians paying rent? Are they paying their bills? Are they being paid to live here?
They're being paid to live here. I don't see why they'd have to pay rent if they're being paid to be here.
Who's paying them?
The government. And that's our biggest issue too, is they're taking our schools over and they're running the Americans out of our own countries, it feels like.
This country has gone to hell. 12 motherfuckers live there, and there's another 7 or 8 live right here in this corner house. And 4 of them just moved in here. They ain't in there.
Do you think you'll sell the house to a Haitian family one day?
Hell no. I wouldn't give them motherfuckers the sweat off my balls if he's dying of thirst. I'm for real, man. I am sick of them. You know, I don't give a fuck if they put a Haitian in every house. I'll be the only white person here.
Twitter is saying that Haitians are kidnapping the neighbors' cats and eating them. Is that true or false? I gotta ask the hard questions here. Why is everyone coming here?
Haïtien vient ici pour travailler, mais manger chat, non. Parce que non, pas manger chat, non, chat, non. Si nous besoin de viande, manger viande, aller dans Walmart, nous acheter, mais manger chat haïtien, pas manger chat.
Okay. Why did you leave Haiti?
Moi, j'ai quitté Haïti parce que dans mon pays, qui ont des gens qui ont un problème politique, qui ont des autres qui ont passé, j'ai essayé de quitter jusqu'à ce que ça arrange pour me retourner dans le pays.
Barbecue? Civil War? Like,
Je ne sais pas qu'on est en de monde seulement juste un problème, mais c'est déplacé. Mais pas aucun nom de ce soir qui a fait ça.
okay. Okay, so just family and friends told them to come here to Springfield? Could you ask them that?
Yeah, he's a friend.
I see. Okay. Merci. Okay.
I don't eat that.
Okay. She clarified, I don't need cat.
See how that trash can is right there?
Right there. Yep.
Okay, every Haitian house you go around, it's honestly filled to the brim. There's trash that leaks out onto the corner everywhere, but we're expected to live clean environment. And then on top of that, with the rise of immigrants and they get assisted living freely, it makes it harder for people like me or somebody else who doesn't get assisted living to find affordable housing.
Are they driving the housing costs up around here?
Yeah, like no
Big time?
Yeah, like
What are we talking?
okay. Honestly, in my opinion, it'll be a surprise if I don't get kicked out so they can boost up the rate on this place. They'll probably fix it,
I see.
get it where it's looking better, and boost the rate up on it. They pay $1,200 a month.
How much money does the government give you per month?
Pero el first time me doy como primera vez te pusieron como 500, segunda 300.
Okay. ¿Cuántos Haitians vive aquí en las 2 años?
No tengo un mensual, pero yo nuevo por ahí.
¿De dónde eres?
En Haití.
Haiti?
Sí.
¿Cuántos meses vive aquí?
Tengo 2 meses.
2?
Sí.
Did anyone tell you to come here to Springfield, Ohio?
Sí.
Did a friend tell you to come move here for a job?
I thought they spoke only French. I'm shocked that they speak Spanish. I did not know. But again, this rumor, maybe 1 time, 2 times this happened, and they just put it on all the Haitians. I don't know. Maybe it was someone doing a ritual. I don't know. But they seem to think that this is what's going on. But we do know that the cost of living and the rate of the houses and the down of the housing, as far as the value behind this happening with the influx of migrants, is not pleasing to the neighbors over there. And there are a lot more white people than there are black, but I did show a video where a black person also spoke up about them grabbing up ducks or geese in the park. So this is the perception that's going around, and they're not really happy with what they're knowing that the migrants are getting, having so-called magic cards and all this other notion of being helped for free. And the Americans are feeling left out, and it's also including every type of American, not just blacks, because we're used to this going on in Chicago. We're used to this happening in New York. We're used to this going on in Colorado, but now it's coming to Ohio as well. And my concern is that if it spreads to other cities, if Kamala becomes president, that's what I fear the most, and a widespread, a wildfire of sorts of this spreading to where the resources are dried up and people are asked out that are American, and we become debt slaves to the migrants. That is not the American dream for Americans. So I want y'all to just keep that in mind as you watch this video.
Learn about Springfield.
Yo tengo mi padras por ahí.
Okay. How much is it to rent an apartment here in Springfield? How much do you pay for rent?
Pero todavía yo no pagué, pero yo vivo con mi padra, mensual cada mes 700.
Is anyone eating cats out here?
No.
Okay. Also,
Falso.
falso información. Okay. Do you know many other Haitians here?
Yes.
Yeah. Big community?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And why are so many Haitians coming here to Springfield in particular?
Actually, c'est parce que
yo di si kan gen job haïtien depuis li vini la ka travail, ça vient permettre que gen l'autre haïtien qui vini.
They say that it is available. They gave the impression that this was an open invitation. So all of them are here with the impression that this is an open invitation thanks to Biden and Harris. This is why her not being held accountable in the debate is very disturbing. And you know that is biased. ABC, just like CNN, they're all biased asking the questions about all these people over here in America, period, dot. Please like and share and subscribe to my channel. Let's go.
Nice. Okay. Thank you. Also, if you want to support our boots on the ground, independent journalism that is not bought and paid for by corporate interests, along with uncensored early access.
So let's get back to the debate. I just wanted to take a brief break from the debate to give it a chance for you guys to watch the rest of it because it was becoming a little bit long-winded without a break. And I didn't want that to be. So let me find the video and let's complete the rest of this video and see how it ends. It's like 30 more minutes to go and then it's over. So please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. I would greatly appreciate it. Let's go.
Because what he's gotten away with is absolutely incredible. It wouldn't have happened with me. The leaders of other countries think that they're weak and incompetent, and they are. They're grossly incompetent. And I just ask one question. Why does Biden go in and kill the Keystone Pipeline and approve the single biggest deal that Russia's ever made, Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline anywhere in the world going to Germany and all over Europe? Because they're weak and they're ineffective. And Biden, by the way, gets paid a lot of money.
Thank you. We have a lot of issues to get to.
We'll be right back with much more of this historic ABC News presidential debate from the National Constitution Center right here in Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
Oh, so now they have the commercial. Okay, right when I come back. Okay, hold on. Let me fast forward it.
Of the Biden administration that we must defend Ukraine from Russia, from Vladimir Putin, to defend their sovereignty, their democracy, that it's in America's best interest to do so, arguing that if Putin wins, he may be emboldened to move even further into other countries. You have said you would solve this war in 24 hours. You said so just before the break tonight. How exactly would you do that? And I want to ask you a very simple question tonight. Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I want the war to stop. I want to save lives that are being uselessly, people being killed by the millions. It's the millions. It's so much worse than the numbers that you're getting, which are fake numbers. Look, we're in for 250 billion or more because they don't ask Europe, which is a much bigger beneficiary to getting this thing done than we are. They're in for $150 billion less because Biden and you don't have the courage to ask Europe like I did with NATO. They paid billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars when I said, either you pay up or we're not going to protect you anymore. So that's maybe one of the reasons they don't like me as much as they like weak people. But you take a look at what's happening. We're in for 250 to 275 billion. They're into 100 to 150. They should be forced to equalize. With that being said, I want to get the war settled. I know Zelensky very well, and I know Putin very well. I have a good relationship, and they respect your president, okay? They respect me. They don't respect Biden. How would you respect him? Why? For what reason? He hasn't even made a phone call in 2 years to Putin, hasn't spoken to anybody. They don't even try and get it. That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win, when I'm president-elect, and what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin after I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell, but after I left, when I saw him building up soldiers, he did it after I left, I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We're playing with World War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if he's. Where is our president? We don't even know if he's a president.
And just to clarify
they
here,
threw him out of a campaign like a dog. We don't even know. Is he our president? But we have a president,
Mr. President,
that doesn't know he's alive.
your time is up. Just to clarify the question, do you believe it's in the U.S. best interests for Ukraine to win this war, yes or no?
I think it's the U.S. best interest to get this war finished and just get it done.
All right,
negotiate a deal, because we have to stop all of these human lives from being destroyed.
I want to take this to Vice President Harris. I want to get your thoughts on support for Ukraine in this moment, but also as Commander-in-Chief, if elected, how would you deal with Vladimir Putin, and would it be any different from what we're seeing from President Biden?
Well, first of all, it's important to remind the former president you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me. I believe the reason that Donald Trump says that this war would be over within 24 hours is because he would just give it up. And that's not who we are as Americans. Let's understand what happened here.
Not just give it up. She just gave it up. She gave up the border. What are you talking about? Not just give it up. You've been giving it up. The heck you talking about, miss? Please like the video.
With Zelensky, a few days before Russia invaded, tried through force to change territorial boundaries, to defy one of the most important international rules and norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity. And I met with President Zelensky. I shared with him American intelligence about how he could defend himself. Days later, I went to NATO's eastern flank, to Poland and Romania. And through the work that I and others did, we brought 50 countries together to support Ukraine in its righteous defense. And because of our support, because of the air defense, the ammunition, the artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tanks that we have provided, Ukraine stands as an independent and free country. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now. And understand what that would mean, because Putin's agenda is not just about Ukraine. Understand why the European allies and our NATO allies are so thankful that you are no longer president, and that we understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is NATO, and what we have done to preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians to fight for their independence. Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
Vice President Harris, thank you. We've heard from both of you on Ukraine tonight. Afghanistan came up in the last hour. I wanted her to respond to something you said earlier, and I'll give you a minute here.
Putin would be sitting in Moscow, and he wouldn't have lost 300,000 men and women, but he would have been sitting in Moscow, quiet please, he would have been sitting in Moscow much happier than he is right now. But eventually, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons. They don't ever talk about that. He got nuclear weapons. Nobody ever thinks about that. And eventually, maybe he'll use them, and maybe he hasn't been that threatening. But he does have that, something we don't even like to talk about. Nobody likes to talk about it. But just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war because everything they said was weak and stupid. They said the wrong things. That war should have never started. She was the emissary. They sent her in to negotiate with Zelensky and Putin, and she did. And the war started 3 days later. And that's the kind of talent we have with her. She's worse than Biden. In my opinion, I think he's the worst president in the history of our country. She goes down as the worst vice president in the history of our country. But let me tell you something. She is a horrible negotiator. They sent her in to negotiate. As soon as they left, Putin did the invasion.
President Trump, thank you. You did bring up something. You said she went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify tonight?
Yet again, I said at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fella.
Look at that. Hey, Greg Cordonia, guys, look. Emergency.
This fella. And that is another one. When I went to meet with President Zelensky, I've now met with him over 5 times. The reality is it has been about standing as America always should, as a leader upholding international rules and norms, as a leader who shows strength, understanding that the alliances we have around the world are dependent on our ability to look out for our friends and not favor our enemies because you adore strong men instead of caring about democracy. And that is very much what is at stake here. The President of the United States is Commander-in-Chief, and the American people have a right to rely on a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility in terms of ensuring that there is stability and ensuring we stand up for our principles and not sell them for the benefit of personal flattery.
We talked about Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. I do want to talk about Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of this debate. I want to move on to Afghanistan.
Said Trump did the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He got these countries, the 28 countries at the time, to pay up. He said, I've never seen, he's the head of NATO. He said, I've never seen, for years we were paying almost all of NATO. We were being ripped off by European nations, both on trade and on NATO. I got them to pay up by saying one of the statements you made before, if you don't pay, we're not going to protect you. Otherwise, we would have never gotten it. He said it was one of the most incredible jobs that he's ever seen done.
Thank you. I want to turn to Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of the debate, and we witnessed a poignant moment today on Capitol Hill honoring the soldiers who died in the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. I do want to ask the Vice President, do you believe you bear any responsibility in the way that withdrawal played out?
Well, I will tell you, I agreed with President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan. 4 presidents said they would, and Joe Biden did. And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that endless war. And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century. But let's understand how we got to where we are. Donald Trump, when he was president, negotiated one of the weakest deals you can imagine. He calls himself a deal maker. Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down. He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban. The negotiation involved the Taliban getting 5,000 Taliban terrorists released. And get this. And the president at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David, a place of storied significance for us as Americans, a place where we honor the importance of American diplomacy, where we invite and receive respected world leaders. And this former president, as president, invited them to Camp David because he does not again appreciate the role and responsibility of the President of the United States to be Commander-in-Chief with a level of respect. And this gets back to the point of how he has consistently disparaged and demeaned members of our military, fallen soldiers, and the work that we must do to uphold the strength and the respect of the United States of America around the world.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, your response to her saying that you began the negotiations with the Taliban.
So, if you take a look at that period of time, the Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the fighting force within Afghanistan. They don't bother doing that because, they deal with the wrong people all the time. But I got involved. And Abdul is the head of the Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban. And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. And for 18 months, we had nobody killed. We did have an agreement negotiated by Mike Pompeo. It was a very good agreement. The reason it was good, we were getting out. We would have been out faster than them, but we wouldn't have lost the soldiers. We wouldn't have left many Americans behind, and we wouldn't have left $85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful military equipment behind. And just to finish, they blew it. The agreement said you have to do this, and they didn't do it. They didn't do it. The agreement was terminated by us because they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
I want to move
and
on.
These people did the worst withdrawal, and in my opinion, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And by the way, that's why Russia attacked Ukraine, because they saw how incompetent she and her boss are.
President Trump, thank you. I want to move on now to race and politics in this country. Mr. President, you recently said of Vice President Harris, quote, "I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black." I want to ask a bigger picture question here tonight. Why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
I don't, and I don't care. I don't care what she is. I don't care. You make a big deal out of something. I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words. So
I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out, and I'll say that. And then I read that she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her. That's up to her.
Vice President Harris, your thoughts on this?
It's not up to her. It is what it is. She's not black, y'all. She's Indian and white. Look at her hair highlights. Got blonde highlights. She looks whiter than ever. She is not a black American. She does not have our black experience. So what? She went to HBCU. Who cares? I don't. She is not us. I could care less. They can keep on claiming that she's one of us, and she can use our past leaders and say that she is a new this person and that, Martin Luther King, and all these types of things that she's calling herself doing. But it's all an act, and I'm not rewarding this woman. I hope that you guys would not get along with the fakery of it all and not let her slime her way into your hearts with her lies.
I think honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide the American people. You know, I do believe that the vast majority of us know that we have so much more in common than what separates us, and we don't want this kind of approach that is just constantly trying to...
Her dad is from Jamaica, but he is Indian and Irish. He is not the typical Jamaican black people, so stop with the lies. And even if that was true, still was not a black American. Does not count in my book, just like we shouldn't have let Obama slip in. But because of Michelle Obama, a lot of us really looked at him as being one of us. But we can't do that with you now, can we? Harris, you do not get a pass in this regard. Please vote for Trump, not identity politics.
Us, and especially by race. And let's remember how Donald Trump started. He was he owned buildings, and he was investigated because he refused to rent property to black families. Let's remember, this is the same individual who took out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the execution of 5 young black and Latino boys who were innocent, the Central Park 5. Took out a full-page ad calling for their execution. This is the same individual who spread birther lies about the first black president of the United States. And I think the American people want better than that, want better than this. Want someone who understands, as I do, I travel our country. We see in each other a friend. We see in each other a neighbor. We don't want a leader who is constantly trying to have Americans point their fingers at each other. I meet with people all the time who tell me, can we please just have discourse about how we're going to invest in the aspirations and the ambitions and the dreams of the American people? knowing that regardless of people's color or the language their grandmother speaks, we all have the same dreams and aspirations and want a president who invests in those, not in hate and division.
Vice President Harris, thank you. Lindsay?
President Trump, this is now your third time.
This is the most divisive presidency in the history of our country. There's never been anything like it. They're destroying our country, and they come up with things like what she just said. Going back many, many years, when a lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park Five, they admitted, they said, they pled guilty. And I said, well, if they pled guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately. And if they pled guilty, then they pled, we're not guilty. But this is a person that has to stretch back years, 40, 50 years ago, because there's nothing now. I built one of the greatest economies in the history of the world, and I'm going to build it again. It's going to be bigger, better, and stronger. But they're destroying our economy. They have no idea what a good economy is. Their oil policies, every single policy. And remember this, she is Biden. You know, she's trying to get away from Biden. I don't know the gentleman, she says. She is Biden. The worst inflation we've ever had, a horrible economy because inflation has made it so bad that she can't get away with that.
Thank you. Time's up.
I want to respond to that, though. I want to just respond briefly. Clearly, I am not Joe Biden, and I am certainly not Donald Trump. And what I do offer is a new generation of leadership for our country. One who believes in what is possible. One who brings a sense of optimism.
Possible, huh? The worst of the worst is coming possible by way of her. There is no reason under the sun to believe this flip-flopper, this liar, this pretender, this poser. This woman is full of herself. Y'all don't fall for this. Don't fall for this. If this is the last and only debate, I think I heard that she is asking for a second debate. Is that true, though? Can y'all tell me if it's true that she's asking for a second debate? Let me know in the chat.
About what we can do instead of always disparaging the American people. I believe in what we can do to strengthen our small businesses, which is why I have a plan. Let's talk about our plans and let's compare the plans. I have a plan to give startup businesses.
She doesn't have a plan. She has a fantasy. She has make-believe. It's not going to end well. America's going to be paying so much taxes. We will be indebted to the migrants and to the illegals. We will be enslaved to their plight. That is not the American dream that Americans are trying to dream. So this notion of opportunity economics and all this type of talk and helping out first-time homeowners and whatnot, talking about the illegals, first-time owners. There's so many of us that's already had homes, lost homes, all this type of stuff. So we will be cut out of this dream that she's talking about. She is not the one.
$50,000 tax deduction to pursue their ambitions, their innovation, their ideas, their hard work. I have a plan, $6,000 for young families for the first year of your child's life.
$6,000 does not pale in this mind of what the other people that are coming over here are getting. $6,000 measly dollars to what? A few middle class people or small business people. That's what she's offering. But what about the not so good to do American, the homeless American, the vet American that's homeless? There's a lot of them. What about helping those people out with getting housing? They already had houses, a lot of them, and now they're on rock bottom, and they're going to stay at the rock bottom with Kamala Harris' plan. She is not for the American people struggling. She is for the well-to-do or the people that are brand new. She has nothing to offer any of us as a whole. And she is the wrong choice for this election.
Help you in that most critical stage of your child's development. I have a plan that is about allowing people to be able to pursue what has been fleeting in terms of the American dream by offering a help with down payment of $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. That's the kind of conversation, I believe, David, that people really want tonight, as opposed to a conversation that is constantly about belittling and name-calling. Let's turn the page
Vice
and
President
move
Harris,
forward.
thank you. Let's turn to policy.
President
Let's
Trump,
turn to
we have to
policy.
move on. President Trump.
Let's turn to policy,
She has
please.
a plan to defund the police. She has a plan to confiscate everybody's gun.
President Trump,
She
we
has
do
a
have to
plan
move on
to
to
not
other
allow
issues.
fracking in Pennsylvania or anywhere else.
Okay,
That's what her plan is until just recently.
I just need to respond
President
because
Trump,
the
President
former
Trump.
president has said
No, I'm
something
sorry.
twice that I need to respond to.
I'm sorry.
I
We're
just
gonna
need to
move
respond
on, Vice
one
President
time
Harris.
to what he has
President
said.
Trump,
That was the only time that she didn't get her way, y'all. The only time she did not get her way. And I know she was fuming inside that she wasn't able to follow up, but too late.
This is now your third time running for president. You have long vowed to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. You have failed to accomplish that. You now say you're going to keep Obamacare, quote, unless we can do something much better. Last month you said, quote, we're working on it. So tonight, 9 years after you first started running, do you have a plan, and can you tell us what it is?
Obamacare was lousy health care. Always was. It's not very good today. And what I said, that if we come up with something, and we are working on things, we're going to do it and we're going to replace it. But remember this, I inherited Obamacare because Democrats wouldn't change it. They wouldn't vote for it. They were unanimous. They wouldn't vote to change it. If they would have done that, we would have had a much better plan than Obamacare. But the Democrats came up, they wouldn't vote for it. I had a choice to make when I was president. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be? Never going to be great. Or do I let it rot? And I felt I had an obligation, even though politically it would have been good to just let it rot and let it go away. I decided, and I told my people, the top people, and they're very good people. I have a lot of good people in that administration. We read about the bad ones. We had some real bad ones too, and so do they. They have really bad ones. The difference is they don't get rid of it. But let me just explain. I had a choice to make. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, or do I let it rot? And I saved it. I did the right thing. But it's still never going to be great, and it's too expensive for people. And what we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now. But if we come up with something, I would only change it if we come up with something that's better and less expensive. And there are concepts.
You should have said there's more priorities that I have on my list to do before addressing the Obamacare. We have an open border. We have so many people here that shouldn't be here. I'll get to that when I can, but you guys can guarantee or be guaranteed that I am going to address that border, since she won't. He should have went there. He should have pivoted to say his priorities, because he does have a priority list, and it is the border, and it is dealing with some of these dangerous illegals that are over here. It is the economy. Those are the priorities that he has, and he should have said that. I don't think he answered this question as best as he could. But I still feel like, well, maybe he lost the point here as well. So right now, in reference to the debate, I still give an edge to Trump only because he was triple teamed and it was biased. So he still wins just by a hair. But I don't think that she did as good as people are trying to rave that she was doing. I don't see it. She was able to get out of so many different things. So she didn't answer anything. She wasn't forced to look bad on any type of way. They never really followed up and hammered her like they did Trump. So you have to give him a little edge over the debate, in my opinion. Let's go.
And options we have to do that. and you'll be hearing about it in the not too distant future.
Vice President Harris, in 2017, you supported Bernie Sanders' proposal to do away with private insurance and create a government-run healthcare system. 2 years later, you proposed a plan that included a private insurance option. What is your plan today?
Well, first of all, I absolutely support, and over the last 4 years as vice president, private healthcare options. But what we need to do is maintain and grow the Affordable Care Act. But I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to respond to a previous point that the former president has made. I've made very clear my position on fracking, and then this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So stop with the continuous lying about this stuff. As it relates
again, she does flip-flop, don't she? She's trying her best to try to get and garner some of his voters by saying the things that they want to hear. That's why she's talking this way. That's why she wanted to squeeze that back in to try to get the Republicans' ear to tingle a little bit. We won't be messing with your guns in case there's civil war. You got nothing to worry about. Here we go.
The Affordable Care Act, understand, just look at the history to know where people stand. When Donald Trump was president, 60 times he tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. 60 times. I was a senator at the time. When I will never forget the early morning hours when it was up for a vote in the United States Senate, and the late, great John McCain, who you have disparaged as being, you don't like him, you said at the time, because he got caught. He was an American hero. The late, great John McCain, I will never forget that night, walked onto the Senate floor and said, no, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't get rid of the Affordable Care Act. You have no plan. And what the Affordable Care Act has done is eliminate the ability of insurance companies to deny people with pre-existing conditions. I don't have to tell people watching tonight, you remember what that was like? Remember when an insurance company could deny if a child had asthma, if someone was a breast cancer survivor, if a grandparent had diabetes? And thankfully, as I've been vice president, and we over the last 4 years have strengthened the Affordable Care Act, we have allowed for the first time Medicare to negotiate drug prices on behalf of you, the American people. Donald Trump said he was going to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. He never did. We did. And now we have capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. Since I've been vice president, we have capped the cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000 a year. And when I am president, we will do that for all people, understanding that the value I bring to this is that access to health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. And the plan has to be to strengthen the Affordable Care Act, not get rid of it.
Vice President Harris,
in terms of where Donald Trump stands on that.
I want to move to an issue that's important for a lot.
You made a mistake. At number one, John McCain fought Obamacare for 10 years. But it wasn't only him. It were all of the Democrats that kept it going. And you know what? We could do much better than Obamacare. Much less money. But she won't improve.
I don't think that should be his focus, honestly. But he should, stop with the hate of Obama, because it's been long gone. But I guess he wants to hold on to that. I think that his attention to that Obamacare is a little bit too heavy for all the other things that's more important and more pressing. The economy is much more pressing, and these illegals are much more pressing. And the economy, of course, again, is the most pressing. I think that he should just stick to the priorities and not get forced into conversating about Obamacare. They kept trying to force him into a corner. All of them were doing it. They never did that to really Harris at all. So you could tell this was biased. I still give the edge to Trump. I don't think that she looked as polished as people are trying to perceive her to look. She just was able to skate by. That's all.
Private insurance for people, private medical insurance. That's another thing she doesn't want to get. People are paying privately for insurance. that have worked hard and made money, and they want to have private. She wants everybody to be on government insurance where you wait 6 months for an operation that you need immediately.
President Trump, thank you. We have another issue that we'd like to get to that's important for a number of Americans, in particular younger voters, and that's climate change. President Trump, with regard to the environment, you say that we have to have clean air and clean water. Vice President Harris, you call climate change an existential threat. The question to you both tonight is, what would you do to fight climate change? And Vice President Harris, we'll start with you. 1 minute for you each.
Well, the former president had said that climate change is a hoax. And
Again, she never answers a question. She just throws it right back on him. That's it. She did not win this. She did not win this debate. I wish you guys would stop saying that in the chat room. She did not win.
we know is that it is very real. You ask anyone who lives in a state who has experienced these extreme weather occurrences, who now is either being denied home insurance or it's being jacked up. You ask anybody who has been the victim of what that means in terms of losing their home, having nowhere to go. We know that we can actually deal with this issue. The young people of America care deeply about this issue. And I am proud that as Vice President over the last 4 years, we have invested $1 trillion in a clean energy economy, while we have also increased domestic gas production to historic levels. We have created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs while I have been Vice President. We have invested in clean energy to the point that we are opening up factories around the world. Donald Trump said he was going to create manufacturing jobs. He lost manufacturing jobs. And I'm also proud to have the endorsement of the United Auto Workers and Sean Fain, who also know that part of building a clean energy economy includes investing in American-made products, American automobiles. It includes growing what we can do around American manufacturing and opening up auto plants, not closing them like happened under Donald Trump.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
That didn't happen under Donald Trump. Let me just tell you, they lost 10,000 manufacturing jobs this last month. It's going, they're all leaving. They're building big auto plants in Mexico, in many cases owned by China. They're building these massive plants, and they think they're going to sell their cars into the United States because of these people. What they have given to China is unbelievable, but we're not going to let that. We'll put tariffs on those cars so they can't come into our country, because they will kill the United Auto Workers and any auto worker, whether it's in Detroit or South Carolina or any other place. What they've done to business and manufacturing in this country is horrible. We have nothing because they refuse. You know, Biden doesn't go after people because supposedly China paid him millions of dollars. He's afraid to do it between him and his son. They get all this money from Ukraine. They get all this money from all of these different countries. And then you wonder, why is he so loyal to this one, that one, Ukraine, China? Why is he? Why did he get $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife? Why did she pay him $3.5 million? This is a crooked administration, and they're selling our country down the tubes.
President Trump, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with closing statements from both of our candidates. An historic night as ABC News.
Finally, closing statements. My God, let me take a breather before I continue. Thank y'all for listening. If you have not yet, please like and share, subscribe to my channel. I would greatly appreciate it. Who do y'all feel really won the debate? Don't y'all feel that he was triple teamed? Don't y'all feel that he was really at an odd stance with all the other people that was there? I think that Trump, you know, he had to do what he had to do, and he does what he has to do. That's what's admiring about him, to be honest. He does what he has to do. He's putting America first. I think that's all that you should ask for. She's trying to recreate America. She's trying to gut out America and replace America with other people here and call them Americans. That is not the dream of America. That is not the history of America. This is not the lineage of America. This should not be allowed and tolerated. That is the differences that I'm seeing in this debate. I feel Trump won. I feel that it was staged, and I feel that it was scripted, and she was acting. I don't feel no authenticity from her. I don't feel that she is a real person with a real intention to do anything about that border. That is why I am voting for Trump, because of that border and because of the future that might be stamped out if we do not get Trump back in office. We cannot trust a newbie who has failed as a vice president. This is my opinion. She had more than enough time to make an impression, a good impression. She has not made a good impression. She just walked into this nomination, and now she's trying to walk into presidency, and God only knows what stands there when she gets there. We don't want whatever she got to bring. We don't need that America. She is not for the betterment of Americans, so therefore we should not be trying to rock with her. That's my opinion. Let's go.
It's an historic night, this ABC News presidential debate from Philadelphia. Back to
The ABC News presidential debate will continue after this.
We're back with tonight's debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump.
When it ends, please join us for analysis of tonight's key moments. Our team will break it down. As we enter the final sprint to Election Day, we'll go back to the debate and closing statements.
Live from the National Constitution Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Here again, David Muir and Lindsay Davis.
welcome back tonight. The time has come for closing statements, and Vice President Harris, we begin with you.
So I think you've heard tonight two very different visions for our country. One that is focused on the future.
We didn't hear anything from you, ma'am. What are you talking about? You just read off a script. Anyways, I'm going to let her finish.
And the other that is focused on the past and an attempt to take us backward. But we're not going back. And I do believe that the American people know we all have so much more in common than what separates us. And we can chart a new way forward. And a vision of that includes having a plan, understanding the aspirations, the dreams, the hopes, the ambition of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy, investing in small businesses, in new families, in what we can do around protecting seniors, what we can do that is about giving hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost of living. I believe in what we can do together that is about sustaining America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including respecting our military and ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force in the world. I will be a president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do. I'll tell you, I started my career as a prosecutor. I was a DA, I was an attorney general, a United States senator, and now vice president. I've only had one client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I never asked a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever asked them, are you okay? And that's the kind of president we need right now. Someone who cares about you and is not putting...
Are you okay? Ask that to the vets. Ask that to the homeless people. Ask that to the many Americans that are strapped with all the debt of these migrants. Ask that to the people that's running out of monies in Chicago, who are also being threatened in Colorado, who are also having issues with Haitians in their neighborhoods. And the price of living and everything like that. Ask that to the Americans, how they feel. You're not caring about none of them. But yet we're supposed to believe that you do care about all Americans when you're emphasizing all, meaning that you're intending to make foreigners that just got here into Americans. That's your plan. That's what she has in mind. That is something that y'all should really consider hard and long not to allow. That's my opinion, that she would dare do something like that. And that would just totally change the whole fabric of America and the meaning of America and the process of America and the fights of America and everything that America stands for. This woman cannot be allowed to become president under no circumstance. I hope that people really can read through her bullshit as I have done. I hope that you guys would do yourself a favor by coming out November 5th. Make sure to sign up for voting. Make sure that you're capable to vote. Make sure that you do all that you can do to vote so that you can get these Democrats out of office. She is not for us.
Themselves first. I intend to be a president for all Americans.
And that means that those all, like I said, will end up being these illegals, are going to end up turning into Americans. Then what will we be? What will we be? That don't even make sense right there. Messing up our identities and everything like that in one swoop. Bastardizing America in one swoop. That's not good.
On what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country by investing right now in you, the American people.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump?
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like we're not going to frack, we're not going to take fossil fuel, we're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just have...
She wants to sacrifice the country for other people to come over here and take over. That's what Kamala wants to do. Sacrifice all of us so that others can come over here and benefit off of our struggle that she would like to put us into and call that shit unity in America, an American. That's some bullshit right there. That's kind of like Pan-Africanism, trying to say that Pan-Africanism unites the whole melanated black when you don't see no signs of it nowhere. It's the same damn thing. This unity talk that she talks. She doesn't know anything about that. She is making it difficult for us to live and survive as Americans in America. This is what the Biden and Harris administration has caused, and someone has to fix it. That is Trump. He's the only one that has the bravery and courage to do so. Someone that took a bullet, almost got hit up for real, and he's still standing, 80-something years old, I believe. Still able to stand, still able to fight, still able to care about America as a whole, still able and thinking about put Americans first. This is why we have to choose Trump. Let's go.
One simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world they laugh. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. What these people have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying.
And I'm sorry, y'all, this is not racist to want to self-preserve. It's not racist to want to self-preserve. We have a right to want America to stand for the Constitution, to work for the American people. There's a process for immigrants to come through for being legal. There are many legal immigrants that are upset about these illegals coming over here and doing what they're doing. It is not fair. It's not right to strap down the Americans of, indebt them and have them pay the cost for other people to come over here and splurge. That is not the dream that American wants to have or should have. But that is what Kamala Harris is offering. She's talking the talk, though, just like Obama did, saying all that good stuff that you want to hear, but gonna flip-flop the first chance she gets. You should not trust a woman like this that is a flip-flopper, a sign of someone that is deceitful, someone that is manipulative, someone that is strategic, someone that is untrustworthy.
The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
President Trump, thank you. And that is our ABC News presidential debate from here in Philadelphia.
That is my opinion, y'all. She did not win that debate. It was a 3-against-1 affair. It was rigged. They did not make it hard for her at one point at all. She was able to skid by and not ask that question about the border and about all those people. She put it off on Trump. Everything was about Trump, including the moderators added their 10 cents to the conversation twice, 2 or 3 times. So Trump won. So she had her hand held. Kamala, whatever her name is, had her hand held throughout the debate. She was handled like a baby. This is not fair. If you're trying to become president, you should be able to rumble. They did not ask her the hardest question that I would have thought to ask. I think that Trump won, but he got frustrated and he had to moderate and do the job of the moderators since they weren't giving him the same treatment in return as they were giving Kamala. So he did what he had to do. And that's his character. He does what he has to do to win. And he should be commended for doing what he had to do to win that debate. And I like the fact that he did not stare at her, because that would have made it look like he was trying to intimidate her or trying to bully her with his look. A lot of people would have tried to color that picture, and he did not allow that to happen. So he really didn't even bother to engage. He stayed focused on the task at hand, and he was looking out for all the different things that came up out of the 3 that were up against him. So I really feel that Trump won. Despite against all odds, he still won. And Kamala, of course, is the chameleon who got away and was slithering all around, changing her colors, changing her script, reading her script, and just being as fake as possible. So I hope that you guys gathered what I gathered, and I hope that you guys would please like and share the video and subscribe to my channel. And by the way, I appreciate everybody for hitting the subscriptions. I noticed that I'm over 4,000 now. I really appreciate that. I applaud everybody, all my moderators and everybody that has been supportive of my channel. I will be, hopefully, if there's a second debate, I will be doing commentary on that. It's going to get a little bit more rougher before it gets better. This election is very important, November 5th. I will be talking more about Harris and Trump and other topics, but I will be speaking on them as well. Thank y'all for please coming through. I appreciate it. I want to play a song before I go. If you can think of one, I might play another song, but I have just one song I want to play. Turn Your Love Around. We have to look at Trump a little bit different than what we've been looking at him. I know that people are trying to paint him in a light that's barbaric and that he's a racist. He is a brass speaking guy, but he is truthful and he has the right intention. He has the right intention to do right by us. Harris does not have that right intention. So let me see. I was going to play this one song and it went away. Turn your love around. I'm going to play a little bit of George Benson. If you guys know who that is, let me know if you know who that is. A little bit of old school to end the live. That song is for everybody that remembers good music. I hope that you appreciate that. And the last song I'm gonna play is by Maze. Just got word that Frankie Beverly has passed. I don't know if he just recently passed. There's some other actor that just recently passed too. He acted in Go Back to Africa, or no, Coming to America with Eddie Murphy. What was his name? Rest in peace to that actor. He was 93 years old. James Earl Jones, exactly. Rest in peace to him. I'm gonna play Maze featuring Frankly Beverly for Easy X, and then this will conclude the video. I appreciate everybody's support, liking the video, sharing the video, subscribing to my channel is pretty awesome. I hope that you guys would appreciate this song and hit the like button.
Sometimes I know I hurt you so, but I could never let you go. With you beside me, girl, your love to guide me, girl, and out of this whole wide world, I got you. All hard times you've been my friend. Through good and bad, through thick and thin. Sometimes I know I hurt you so, but I could never let you go. I know you're good to me. You make it so great to see. Your love and its ecstasy. I got you. alright. You know what makes me feel alright. Sometimes I know I hurt you so. But I could never let you go. When you decide me, girl, your love to guide me, girl. And out of this whole wide world, I got you.